is a powerful idea.
Of all the participants in the Lincoln County War, the one person that would rise to the status of an American legend was Billy the Kid. Following the war, Billy, along with remnants of the Regulators, continued on the outlaw trail. Mostly he wandered the New Mexican countryside gambling and rustling cattle. Often he would spend time here in White Oaks, New Mexico. Now mostly abandoned, White Oaks boomed after the war when gold was discovered in the surrounding hills. Billy would come here to gamble, dance, and sell his stolen livestock. At that time, rustling in the territory was rampant, and the cattle interest wanted it stopped. Because of his reputation, Billy the Kid was blamed for many of these crimes. What's more, he was wanted for the murders of Sheriff William Brady and Buckshot Roberts. In 1880, Pat Garrett was elected sheriff of Lincoln County. Billy knew Garrett from the time when Garrett operated a saloon in Fort Sumner. The powers that be in the county and territory wanted Garrett to track Billy down and to bring him in. In December of 1880, Garrett and his posse encountered the Kid and his gang at Fort Sumner. Billy's friend Tom O'Folliard was killed, but the rest of the gang escaped. Then, on Christmas Eve, Garrett finally captured the Kid outside Fort Sumner at a place called Stinking Springs, New Mexico. Garrett trapped Billy and his friends in a stone hut where they had spent the night. The foundation of this hut remains today. Many believe the Kid had planned to leave New Mexico the next day had he not been captured by Garrett.
I really feel like that all of them had intended to leave the country. Old Tascosa, Texas, where they have been before, was right in the path of where they had headed out, but there was an extremely bad snowstorm, blizzard, that drove them back to Wilcox's, and once they were driven back to Wilcox, they had no alternative than to move on somewhere. Now, once they came to Stinking Springs, there's always the possibility that they were headed to Yellow Horse Canyon, which is in Texas, and they could have gotten into that canyon, and if it was their intention to go to Mexico, we'll never know. But I feel like that they were headed out of the country but were driven back by the storm.
During the Stinking Springs siege, Billy's good friend Charlie Beaudry was killed by the Garrett posse. Garrett then brought Billy back to Mesilla to stand trial. The charges against Billy for Buckshot Roberts' murder were dropped, but he was convicted of the killing of Sheriff William Brady. Judge Warren Bristol sentenced Billy to death by hanging. It was shortly after his capture, while in jail in Santa Fe, that Billy wrote numerous letters to New Mexico Governor Lew Wallace. Billy and the governor had met before in Lincoln in 1879. At this meeting, Billy had promised to testify against James Dolan in a murder he had witnessed. In return, Wallace told Billy he would be pardoned on the murder charge that hung over his head in the shooting of William Brady. Billy testified, then fled house arrest in Lincoln, and Governor Wallace never did live up to his end of the bargain. Now, with a death sentence pronounced against him, Billy once again reached out for the governor.
January 1st, 1881, Santa Fe, New Mexico. To Governor Lew Wallace. Dear Sir, I'd like to see you for a few moments if you can spare the time. Yours respectfully, W.H. Bonney. March 27th, 1881, Santa Fe, New Mexico. To Governor Lew Wallace. Dear Sir, for the last time I ask you, will you keep your promise? I start below tomorrow. Send answer by bearer. Yours respectfully, W. Bonney.
I think Lew Wallace is not the hero that he's frequently portrayed as. When you look at the facts, he made a bargain with the Kid, and right down the line, the Kid kept his word on every point, and right down the line, Wallace broke his word on every point. In fact, the last thing he did before he left New Mexico was to sign a death warrant for somebody who he'd promised a pardon to. So, Lew Wallace, to me, is just another politician.
Governor Wallace never replied to Billy's letters, and the Kid was brought back to Lincoln under heavy guard. One of the men guarding Billy on the trip from Mesilla to Lincoln was named Bob Ollinger. Now a deputy marshal, Ollinger had fought on the Dolan side during the war and hated Billy. During the trip, he constantly taunted Billy with a 10-gauge shotgun. Upon his arrival in Lincoln, Billy was held on the second floor here at the courthouse. Billy's hands and feet were shackled in chains. On April 28, 1881, with Sheriff Pat Garrett out of town, Billy asked Deputy J.W. Bell to take him to the privy. Bob Ollinger was across the street at the Wortley Hotel. Upon returning from the privy, the kid made his move. Some say he got the gun in the privy, stashed there by a friend, of which Billy had many in Lincoln. Others believe the kid overpowered Bell inside the courthouse and stole his gun. A third school of thought says, once in the courthouse, Billy raced ahead of Bell up the steps and into the armory, where he got a gun.
Well, the problem of the gun is an interesting one, and there are multiple versions.
It's my opinion, and you might say that it's fact. Sam Corbett placed the gun under the privy seat.
If the kid had a gun from the privy, it means he's armed before he gets back in the building, which means there's no reason to have a fight, which was witnessed, or ear witnessed, by the way. My only ear witness was Godfrey Goss, who said there was a struggle and a gunshot. Bell has a fractured skull, okay? Why would that have happened if this guy is armed coming back to the building?
Certainly, I do not see a problem if Billy indeed went to the privy, that someone didn't help him.
Garrett himself believed that the kid got ahead of Bell, went up the stairs, opened up a door where the arsenal was, and he said that it was a bum door, which is pretty smart to have a bum door full of weapons next to the most dangerous man in the territory. But I think that somewhere up there, probably either he hit him with the manacles or he got a gun.
I really feel like that what I have read and what I think I know of Billy, I think he read ahead of Bell and got it from the armory.
I do think that Billy did get the gun in the privy. Yes, I do. And there are a million different ways to look at this, and everybody's got a different opinion.
I do not have a problem with the fact that a Lincoln resident left a gun in the outhouse.
Overpowering Bell, getting his gun, shooting him, when you really look at it, it's really the only way it could have happened.
All the stories about where he got the guns of this is, I have no idea. The family, the history that we share has left nothing there.
Whatever did happen, the end result was that Billy shot Deputy J.W. Bell on these courthouse stairs. Bell staggered out the back door of the courthouse and died right here. After disposing of Bell, the kid positioned himself in this window armed with Ollinger's 10-gauge shotgun. When Ollinger heard the gunfire, he raced back to the courthouse. From the window, Billy called out Ollinger's name and then emptied both barrels of the shotgun into Ollinger's chest and face. The deputy fell dead here in the courthouse yard. Afterwards, Billy somehow cut his shackles, and after making a speech to the townspeople from this balcony, he mounted a horse and rode off into legend. It was a spectacular, daring, and cunning escape that made headlines all across America. Billy the Kid was now the most famous outlaw in the West. He was 21 years old and had 76 days to live.
The escape from the courthouse is, in my way of thinking, self-preservation. I mean, you and I probably would have done the same thing, knowing our time is limited. You either go for it or you're going to die.
And he's not ready to die. It's basically survival that makes him do that. It's not a pathology. I can easily imagine myself, if I were in those circumstances, wouldn't I be prepared to do something desperate also?
I think what we need to talk about is motive and opportunity. And certainly there was motive for most of the townspeople to have assisted the kid, who I think most people felt was actually a scapegoat. After all, no one else was being prosecuted for capital crimes committed during the Lincoln County War, and there was certainly a number committed on both sides.
Pat Garrett began tracking Billy once again. On the night of July 14, 1881, Garrett rode into Fort Sumner, New Mexico, having information that the kid was in the area. He went to Peter Maxwell's house and, leaving his two deputies outside, entered Maxwell's bedroom about midnight to question Maxwell as to the kid's whereabouts. At about the same time, only a few hundred yards away, Billy had gotten up to cut a piece of beef because he was hungry. He carried a gun and a knife. As Billy walked past Maxwell's bedroom, he was startled by the two deputies stationed outside. He went into the bedroom and asked Maxwell who the two men on the porch were. Garrett recognized the kid's voice. Maxwell said, "That's him." Drawing his Colt from his holster, Garrett fired 2 shots. One shot hit Billy just above the heart, killing